Good morning. Hi, I'm Frank Messina, and this is the April 4th, 2023 meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission. A couple of quick announcements. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for a scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Don't see anybody. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 signing of the Acts of 2023 extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL 30A20 until March 31st, 2025. The meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission is being conducted in person via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately address the proceeding as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410. Conference ID 847-078-95 #, or by joining the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link on the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Channel 18, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access, and we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Obviously, we had a new announcement, a new governor. So we're going to be doing this, I guess, until sometime March 31st, 2025. Isn't that going to be fun? All right, here we are. We need to take a roll call quickly. One of our members, Vice Chair Bob Lear, is remote. So, Mr. Lear?
Remote.
Present? Thank you.
Yeah.
Steve Burlingame, absent. Ben Smolazinski, absent. Stephanie Hamilton?
Here.
Jane Moffett is absent. Don Aikman is absent. Alternate Sandy Porter is absent. And Janet Tennyson?
Here.
And the chair is here. That makes four of us, so we have an official quorum. We have only 2 applications, so hopefully this will be a relatively quick meeting. First item on the agenda we should deal with is the minutes from March 21st, 2023. Okay, everybody has the minutes. I, myself, Sandy and Ben were absent. So any
I do.
absent, any corrections?
Yes, it's Ben Smolinski, not Bob.
Oh, Ben, thank you very much. Any changes or additions to the minutes? Thank you. A
I
motion?
make a motion that we accept the minutes from March 21st.
Second.
Second by Janet. Thank you very much. Okay. Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair, well, I don't vote. I abstain. So 3 votes, it carries, so the minutes are accepted. Okay, as I said, we have, effectively 3 public hearings. First one is 22-013, to be heard in accordance with Chapter 158. It's a partial demolition of an historic building structure at 489 Stage Harbor Road, filed by the Monomoy Group, John Foley, on Depot Street in Chatham, for Tacoma Partners Limited in Denver, Colorado. Okay. And you are, sir?
I'm Jason Clark, representing the Monomoy Group and Tacoma Partners.
Say that again, I'm sorry?
I'm Jason Clark, representing the Monomoy Group and
Okay.
Tacoma Partners.
Now, are you the contractor or the owner?
We're the contractor.
You're the contractors? Okay. So just quickly before you start, for the public's information, there's a Form B on this property. And it goes back to 1815, a relatively historic home. And so we're hearing it both under Chapter 158 and also with Section 12E of the Cape Cod Commission Regional Plan, Policy Plan as a property in an eligible National Register District. So, having said that, first item on the agenda, so to speak, unless we have any discussion relative to the historical significance of the property, I mean, I believe it's truly historic, and I appreciate what the owners have done in the past and are doing. You have any exception to the historic significance of the property?
No, sir.
Good. Anybody have any other comments relative to the historic significance of the property? Bob?
I believe it is. I agree with you.
Thank you. Steph?
Yes.
Janet? Okay. Just please note, Janet Tennyson is voting as an alternate in place of one of the other regular members who are not present today. It's a vacation time in Chatham. Everybody's heading south. So again, this property, why don't you give us a couple of quick information of what you're planning to do?
The plan is to pick up the house and put a foundation under it. The house needs to be stabilized. You can even, the picture does show a little bit of how crooked it is, but it needs to, I mean, the earth around it is soft. It needs a foundation. It's been sinking for years, you can tell. I mean, it's almost to the top of its existing brick footings that were there, since the 1800s. So
is the house effectively on the ground now?
it's close.
And there's no basement?
There's no basement.
Oh, so it's truly what it was in 1850?
Bingo.
It's amazing it's lived this long. Have you seen relative to the condition of the beams or any powder
So-
posts?
You can barely access, there's a hatch in the living room which takes you down to the original root cellar, and you can see underneath there. It looks okay, but it's not, it needs to be picked up now. You can tell there are some areas in the kitchen that are getting softer, and you can't even access or see that. So that floor needs to be, the
So-
idea would be pick it up and stabilize the floor, probably a new structure underneath the floor.
So in addition to lift it, are you going to be putting a basement in?
Yes,
Full basement?
a full basement would be in there.
So you're going to lose the root cellar, so to
We'll
speak?
lose the root cellar.
Okay.
It's sort of losing itself.
Say again?
It's sort of losing itself at this moment, too. The
Yeah.
root cellar's pretty crumbly as it is
Yeah.
right now.
Well, quite honestly, this is a rather unique and, in my opinion, very good application. The property is extremely well cared for. It's an historic home, and obviously the owners are willing to put some money in to make it last another 100 years, which it hopefully will. My only question about the condition of the beams, I know sometimes we've had this, and all of a sudden they open it up and, the house is being held together by the sideboards,
Yeah.
But hopefully that's not the case. The only thing I would ask you, which if you're the contractor, to be aware, I believe there's enough of consensus to approve this, but if something happens and needs something changed, please contact, community development, the building department, or anybody, or myself, if you need to change. Biggest problem we have when these kinds of things, they start and all of a sudden, oh my God, and things happen. So
Right.
we just want to remind you of that, please, to do that.
I will just reiterate, the owners of this property they love historic homes. They actually completed a renovation a year ago at 80 Main Street. They're all about historic renovation, trying to keep things, and preserve. They're Chatham family. They want it to be preserved forever. So
Okay.
that's what we're looking to do.
You're going to attempt to maintain the ridge height?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I said a lot. Anybody else? Steph?
You
any
took my
com-
question, you just took my question.
Sorry? Steph?
I think it's great that they're saving it, and nice if they save the root cellar, but you know what? It's not practical.
Yeah.
It's just going to eat away at the,
Oh, sure.
yeah.
Bob, Mr. Lear?
I have no problem with the proposal,
Excellent, thank you.
although I think it mentioned in the narrative they were going to take the windows out to protect them and then put them back in. Is that still correct?
Yes, that's the goal. Well, you have to because it's so, it can be wiggly, they'll just
Right.
shatter.
Okay, again, just
And it-
please,
But you're putting them back in.
Yes,
Yeah.
the intent is to put what is there back in. If there's alterations to that, we would
so this is a
file
full,
for
this is a
that.
full lift,
Correct, the whole house will
Yeah.
come up.
yeah. And the chimneys hopefully will be stabilized, or,
Yes, especially the center one, the outside one, depending on condition, but if a chimney needs to be removed, it would be replaced. The idea is to keep this house the way
well,
it looks.
that's kind of why
Yeah.
why I mentioned the subject of just please. We've had a couple of ones where historic houses were lifted and big problems, and big issues, so we just want you to be careful. Thank you. I'm sure you're going to be careful, but, if something happens and you need any changes, just please let us know. We tend to be reasonable when those things happen. Okay.
Gotcha.
Excuse me, it looks like Ben is on, just so you can address him.
Ben, are you joined us?
Yes, I finally was able to get on. It gave me a hard time, but I made it. Here I am.
Here you are. When did you join us, Ben? At the beginning of this meeting?
Just about 2 minutes ago, so I'm not in on the first part here.
All right, I'm going to exclude you from the voting on this particular one, but noted that you're back and voting, all right?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we need a motion? Thank you.
Frank, I would normally help, but I don't have any paperwork.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat
I
that?
said I normally would help with the motion, but I don't have any paperwork down here, so.
He would help.
Yeah, I have the motions, Bob. You've been
Okay,
relieved,
good.
you've been relieved of your duty, and there will be
If you
a
want to
sufficient reduction in your salary.
give them to me, I'll read them.
Oh, that's all right, I'll get it, thank you, be quickly gonna go. Okay, I move that the Chatham Historical Commission finds the building and structure located at 489 Stage Harbor Road is historically significant because in whole or in part is 75 years or more, and it is listed on an area within the National Registered District as an eligible National Registered District, which is subject to pending application for listing. And the commission finds that it is, that one or more historical persons or cultural, economic, social, or political history of the Chatham, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, possesses architectural significance in terms of period, style, and method, construction associated with historically prominent architecture, builder either by itself or conjunction with a group of other buildings.
I'll second.
Second by Steph. Okay, we needed the roll call relative historical significance. Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay. Hang on. Okay.
Good.
Motion 2A, the Chatham Historical Commission finds the proposed work to be done dated, is the application dated?
Right on the front page here.
She's getting better. February 27, 2023. Will not materially diminish the historical significance of the building or structure, and therefore the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
I'll again second.
Stefan by Stephanie. Roll call, Mr. Lear,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Are there any public comment wish to speak about this application? You don't have to slip me a note. You can just say, Frank. She's trying to be subtle, make me look good. Okay, so there's no public comment. Okay, no discretionary referral, okay. I move that the Chatham Historical Commission confirms that the building located at 489 Stage Harbor Road is a contributing structure in an eligible National Registered District. Second?
Second.
Second by Steph. Okay, roll call, Mr. Lear,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes,
and the chair votes yes. Okay, is that it? No, we can make the referral, we're not referral, okay.
No. And then no discretionary referral, so it's the second.
It's on the bottom, okay.
Yeah.
You know, we do multiple colors and it still get confused. I move the Chatham Historical Commission finds the materials, presented dates showing the proposed alteration renovations do not constitute a substantial alteration to a contributing structure in an eligible National Registered District, and therefore a discretionary referral to the Cape Cod Commission is not necessary.
Second.
Second? Okay, quickly, roll call. Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Janet?
yes.
Chair votes yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know it's like pulling teeth, but we got to go through it. Thank you. Saved my life.
Okay.
Is this yours? Yeah. Okay, if you could send them over to me the right way, I'll try to do them. Okay. Next application we have is 20-014. Be heard in accordance with Chapter 158 of the Town of Chatham bylaw, pursuant to intent to fully demolish a structure, a potentially historic structure at 184 Bar Cliff, filed by Mr. James Norcross for 184 Barclay LLC, 45 Bridge Street, Chatham. Okay, this one's a little bit different. There is no Form B on the property, and it is not located in the National Registered District. So the applicant is asking for a full demolition of this property, which happens to be built in 1900. So it makes it about 123 years old. So, James, why don't you give us some presentation relative to its historic significance and what you're planning to do?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Jamie Norcross. I represent the property owner, Dan Russell. Dan is in the audience with me here today. Dan would also be the builder for the project. Participating remotely is David Sargent, who's the architect, and David's going to be running you through the design of the existing and the proposed structure here shortly. Just to give you an overview, there was a structure initially built on the property in 1900, per the assessor's record, as Frank mentioned. There's been some significant renovation in addition to the property over the years. According to the file with the building department, there was a large addition done on the right-hand side as you view the property from Barcliff in the early 1970s. They enclosed what was an open porch on the left-hand side in the mid-1970s, which you can see now. That section with the second roof as it comes down with the closed section used to be an open porch when it was initially built. And then there was they squared off the back of the home in the 1980s. The property also there was a permit on file for new windows, and then as you can see, there's vinyl siding, so that was redone at some point along the line. So again, it seems as if while there was a structure there in 1900, it has been significantly altered from what was initially built. So with that as an overview, I'd ask David to run through some of the design characteristics and the design that he's drawn for the proposed structure, if I may.
Okay, before we do that, you come forward. You know, what we generally do is determine the historical significance of the property and make a determination very quickly, you know, on whether proceed or not to proceed. And although we generally have no purview if we determine a house is not historically significant, we have no purview relative to what you're planning to do. I would comment, before we get into that personally, you know, your application maintaining that the house is in very bad condition, I think is inconsistent with what we see, unless there's something internal going on in the house, that it's gonna fall down or something.
No, I didn't
But
think
I
we
think
said.
we're dealing with a situation where somebody just wants a new house, and wants to take down this, you know, this existing Cape Cod house. I grant you, you know, there's been a lot of changes over the years in the original house, but my personal concern is the demolition of this house and the replacement of a structure that's really inconsistent with the streetscape. You know, we didn't have too many Dutch here, but I understand where you're going, and so I guess it bothers me that, you know, we're gonna take down a relatively modest structure and replace it, but that's not our purview. I'm merely commenting.
Well, if I could just touch on, in terms of, you know, when we say poor condition, not that it's gonna fall down, that's not the case, but inside needs a lot of work to the home. Everything's out of code, would have to get brought up. So, I mean, if you're gonna renovate the structure, there's a ton of work that would have to get done in terms of complying with current code. I think, if I may, David has prepared a diagram that just shows the additions that were done to the property over the years based on the records of
Okay.
the building department. If I could ask him to pull that up on his screen, I think that might be helpful.
All right, thank you.
Are you able to see my screen? All right, so,
You're gonna have to speak up.
oh, you can't hear me? Can you hear me?
No.
Can't hear you.
All right,
That's the problem with this business.
David, the volume's low, we can hear you, it's just not very clear.
all right, I don't know how to check that on my end. You can't hear me still?
A little better.
And the name of the gentleman speaking?
David Sargent,
And he is,
the architect.
and where are they located?
I'm currently
Southborough.
located in Florida. Yeah, he's in Florida now. So that's why I'm calling in. So if we're looking at the screen, if you can all hear me now.
Well, okay, I've got a hearing problem. How about the rest of you people? You can hear?
No.
All right, I'll
It's tough.
turn them up. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. So, looking here at the front of the house, I think what James was saying, you know, about the house has been modified quite a bit. The older portion of the house is actually right here. I'm gonna switch to a diagram that I made that might help to clarify things. So this is the dashed line indicates the footprint of the existing house and garage. And what you see in gray is the 1900 portion. The garage itself, I'm not sure when that was built. If I had to guess, probably be in the 50s, but I don't know for sure. What you see in green is the 1971 addition on the first floor, about 216 square feet. And then you see a hatched area, that's the same addition on the second floor. In 1975, they filled in the existing porch. I don't know whether the existing porch was original to the house or not. We don't have any information on that. But, so as you can see when you look at the exterior, you know, here's the 1971 addition, filled-in porch. And as you can see, the house is pretty much covered in vinyl siding. I think, you know, a lot of the architectural character has been kind of stripped away by the alterations to the home. The house itself, as a cape, is it's not a remarkable version of a Cape-style home. I'm sure when it was originally constructed, probably looked quite beautiful, but I think at this point it's been so heavily modified, it's kind of hard to see the original structure. Just going to switch to the back here. Again, you have the original 1900 structure. This is the 1971 addition. There was a little addition in the 80s, square off the corner here. Now just quickly go through the inside of the house so we can sort of get a sense of what James was saying about the house needs a lot of work. And it isn't so much the house is falling down, it's that if somebody wants to come in here and make improvements, just about every part of the house is kind of dated. This is the main room, main living area. I can't say for sure that these are not original beams. I don't believe they are. Probably at some point these rooms were opened. So this is still that main room. Now we're in the kitchen, and as you can see, this kitchen is completely outdated, has to be totally redone. You see the ceilings, this is like very low-end texture on the ceilings. The ceiling heights in the house are between like 7'4" and 7'6", with very low for what could be a high-end home. Again, more of the kitchen. And here you're entering into the 1971 addition. Extremely dated. You see the old flagstones that we're all familiar with from the 70s. There's a lot of faux antique treatment. You got the old 70s brick. So it's very sort of outdated on the inside and would require a lot of work to make it into a more modern home, more, not to say modern, but a more up-to-date house. Now going up to the second floor, you get the stair. I can tell you as a tall person, this is very low. I'm sure anyone with any height is going to have to duck to get through there. And going up to the second floor, again, we got very low ceilings. And even though the second floor is actually pretty small because it's not over the whole house, it's mostly just over the existing portion and over the addition. Again, very small, very low ceilings. This is actually the addition portion, the 71 addition. And again, this is one of the smaller bedrooms, and actually right here, this is actually a box out over the stair coming up, which is not really great situation. And so these are the existing plans. Now, one thing I wanted to note, I'm going to switch back to my plan. So, as you're seeing the new house, which you can see sort of behind the existing footprint, it pretty much matches the coverage exactly. So we're using the coverage of the garage and the house, which pretty much adds up to 1,503 square feet. The new house, the proposed house, is the same, about 1,502, just a little bit less than the original. Now, one thing you can see here that I'd like to make a point, you see the red dashed line indicates the property setbacks. The front indicates the front of the existing house. It's not the zoning setback, but it aligns with the existing house was. The blue dashed lines are the septic setbacks. This first one is a 10-foot setback to, like a slab on grade. And this is a 20-foot setback that would be to any, wherever you have a basement. One of the things that my client wanted to achieve was by adding the square footage of the garage to the house to be able to add more square footage on the second floor while maintaining the coverage.
That's tricky.
Yeah, well, one of the main problems here to do that is, given the position of the house, if you were to try to bring the garage, let's say over to this side, you're over the setbacks, septic and side setbacks. If you try to bring it over here, again, you're over the setbacks. If you tried to come off of Mousel Lane, you're over the setbacks. It's like pretty much anything you do, you're gonna be over the setbacks. So
So
at
you
this
don't have to
point-
go to zoning?
No, we do, because it's pre-existing non-conforming. We're not increasing any setbacks, but because it's already within the setback to the street and the lot's undersized, so we have to go to
So
zoning.
it's a special permit?
Yes. But I think David's saying that there's not a lot of, if you're gonna do a lateral expansion to the existing, there's not a lot of space
Yeah.
there, I
Well,
believe.
kind of outside my purview.
Yeah.
I just,
Well, it's inside the perimeter.
Dan, you gotta go to the,
I'm Dan Russell, I'm the owner. If you did a traditional cape, he's explaining that the design of the house is designed as it is because you can't do an expanded cape.
why don't you formally identify yourself? Just-
Dan Russell, and I'm the owner and developer.
Okay, thanks. All right, I'm sorry. Didn't interrupt.
Okay, so at this point, I guess I'll go through the proposed house.
oh, one sec, David, did you want him to go through the design of the new house, or you wanted to discuss the
Well,
existing?
if he doesn't mind, just quickly, I don't know how the other members feel. All right, just quickly, go
Sure,
through the
yeah, sorry,
design.
David, if you don't mind, that'd be great.
No,
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, did somebody gonna ask?
We're saying-
Oh, I'm sorry, David, please go ahead and go through the new design.
I'll go through, oh.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
if you quickly can go through the new design, it's not like we're gonna tell you, well, you can't put the window there or something like that.
all right, I'll go as quickly as I can. All right, so, what you see here, maybe I'll go to the site plan first.
Just focus on the exterior, which is, from our perspective.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna give you, I'm not gonna take you through the layout of the home, but just to give you a basic premise of how we position the house and the garage. So you can see in this case, as I was talking, by positioning the garage here, it allows us to go up to the 10-foot setback for a slab on grade, right? And the house moving over to the left, this is where the basement would be. Okay? And again, we've got the pool set behind the 20-foot setback and kept within the setback. So exterior of the home. I'll go to the clean version first. So this is the view of the house from the main street, from Barclay. It is, as you mentioned earlier, it's a Dutch colonial style design. And I would say it would not be the only version, certainly not the only version in Chatham. It's quite ridiculous. But even on the street, there's a couple houses down where there's another Dutch colonial on the same street. It doesn't look exactly like this, but it's same basic style. So here on the front, we've got the garage on the right with a nice carriage style door. We've actually cut into our allowable square footage to create a nice entry port. And then we have little bump out. We have architectural character with bump outs. This is the living room, the main living room. And then on the second floor, one thing that the Dutch colonial allows is it's much more efficient in terms of getting square footage. It
Okay,
doesn't
I
take-
think,
Okay,
unless you really want to proceed, I think we've got a good sense of what it is you're doing, and great job. So why don't we just, if you're really at the point, we can just discuss it a bit?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay. Sorry, let me readjust these microphones in my ears. All right. So I guess, very simply from my perspective, there's no Form B, it's not, it wasn't deemed to be historically significant. I guess my heartache is more that we're replacing a Cape-style house with another Dutch colonial, or inconsistent, but that's, kind of not in our purview. So, but that's my feeling. Janet?
No, I think having visited the site yesterday and hearing the plan, and looking around the neighborhood, it's obviously in an historic neighborhood, and a lot of the other homes are being renovated or have been or are in the process of being updated, but they seem to be more intent on keeping the architectural characteristics of the historical look than this one seems to be. It's too bad that it can't be renovated, keeping the Cape, look, the historic look, rather than the proposed plan, is all I would say, and still achieve more space. I guess that's the objective, more room, right?
Yeah, that's sort of modern, requirements, I guess, in
Yeah.
terms of code and desires of.
It seems a strange neighborhood to buy in when you want to put a big house in a small piece of property. It's going to cover most of the property, as far as I can see.
Well, it's not.
The house, the pool, the driveway, the new driveway,
Yeah, no, there's going to be some outdoor improvements as well. I think the structure itself, as David mentioned, is largely within the footprint. We're not.
It's just going to be very high, evidently.
It's about 5 feet higher than the existing. That's correct.
Okay. Steph?
I just have a question. Is this chimney becoming a widow's walk?
No, it's just going to be a cupola.
Just going to be a cupola?
That's correct.
Because it does not look like it would be on an old house, an antique house.
The cupola?
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
it's kind of to the zoning board when they get there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm very bothered by the change, because
Yeah.
it seems like it's a pretty sturdy house right now, and changes could be made that wouldn't change the whole building.
No, I understand that. I guess it's just, and when you look at it here, it's just hard to envision a lot of the historic characteristics because it's been changed so significantly over the years already.
Would we have anybody that would look at it?
No, they looked at it, and they couldn't. Ben? Are you with us? All right. Bob?
Yeah, I guess unfortunately agree with most of what's been said. I couldn't see anything historical, and after the virtual tour of the inside, I think there could be something to be worked with, but that's just my unexpert feeling. So finding it historically significant is going to be a stretch, because even though it was built in 1900, I don't see any remnants of that. And as you said, we don't have any purview about what it could look like after demolished, but I can anticipate heat from the public saying, what were you doing? Why did you let them do this? So, but that's a zoning thing, so.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Bob. Ben, are you still there? No. All right, we're addressing the issue of historical significance. I notice a member of the public. Would any member of the public like to speak? Thank you.
Ben is there, but he's
Who?
just, Ben is still there, but he's just not answering.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Diane Kendrick Rawlings. I live on Mel's Hole Lane. I remember this house. I grew up down the street. I played with the children in this house. There were 4 children raised. At the time that it was on sale, there was a very young couple looking at it, but unfortunately they got outbid, so therefore they could not purchase it. I guess my feeling is, it's sad that this house is going to be torn down and another huge house is going to be put up, that it's going to be so expensive that a young family could not move in and raise their children. So that's all I had to say.
Well, I mean, just let me comment. It's well said. It's kind of where we're going, unfortunately. This is the Historical Commission. Your next step is the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Right.
and which is a little bit more sympathetic relative to some of those issues. But the concept of houses being, nice houses being, torn down and
Right,
rebuilt
it's a
is,
sad thing.
yeah.
I feel that the house that is in good shape and, I mean, for a long time is now gonna be just torn down, so,
And it's our fault because we made the town so nice.
thank you.
All right, Ben? Ben is lost in the internet world.
There's a hand up online.
He does have his hand up?
Someone else has their
Oh,
hand up.
someone else wishes to speak?
Robert,
What's the name?
Robert,
Robert? Robert, is there a last name? Robert, are you with us? I think you're muted, Robert.
Screen.
RG? Today is the day of delay.
I know.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Robert, one more chance. Is that your shoulder, Robert?
no.
I think that's Bob, too.
This is so frustrating.
RG is who?
Whom?
Who is RG?
The Robert.
I don't know.
Wants to speak.
I'm sorry?
I was gonna say, she asked who RG was. I don't know who that is either.
No.
I do, it's one of the neighbors on.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Can
okay.
we get him in then?
Can he call in?
He's gonna call in, I think.
Good.
Although I like the governor's decision, I don't like the governor's decision. And especially in this position.
Yeah. It's very hard.
Technology's wonderful when it works.
Pardon?
Technology's wonderful when it works,
Yeah.
but
He's calling in.
I are an engineer, but when I became an engineer in 60-something, it was still tubes. He's calling in again, ma'am?
That's what he said.
Well, as I said, we don't have much purview at this particular point, but it does go to zoning. James, while we're waiting a second, we do have a new bylaw, which if we determine a house is historically significant, okay, you do get almost I think about a 5% increase in coverage, and also setback increasing. We passed that bylaw in our last town meeting in the summer, and it is effective. And the purpose of that bylaw is the situation we're in, where we have a house that's, it's historic, and if you save it, the zoning board now has the authority to give you more leeway in terms of setback and size and coverage. Are you familiar with that?
you mentioned it to me yesterday. That was the
Yeah,
first time I
okay,
heard
sorry
it.
about that.
Yes. No, that's fine. No, it's good information.
Yeah, it's just something, it's new,
Right,
and
people,
we did it as an incentive to try and save historic houses, or houses which are, could be determined as historic. But it's just something to know, and put a little arrow in your quiver as you're doing things. You get almost a 10 or 15% increase in volume, which, a developer might be interested in,
Sure, yeah.
just by saving either the historic house or some element of the historic house, which we determined to be historically significant. Anyway, I'm sorry, RG. We're going to move on.
They're back there discussing it.
I'm sorry?
They're back there discussing it,
Oh,
whether they come up with anything.
sorry, I'm getting spasms in my leg. Wonderful. Getting old.
Calling in.
I apologize, sir. Control room, are we getting anything? No. No. I forget her name.
Diane.
I don't know, it's
No good?
It didn't work.
technical difficulties, I guess.
I'm sorry?
I guess they're having technical difficulties.
Yeah.
He's in the meeting, but it says he's on hold, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, I apologize, and we're going to have to go forward. All right, at this particular point, we have, rubber to the road. We've got a first decision, very simply, is to determine whether or not the house is historically significant. You got the one, 158?
Which one do you want?
158? Well, either one. So I'm going to take a kind of not a roll call, but it says, staff historically significant, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes? Janet?
Yes.
Okay. Bob?
I think that part is still visible now that I've seen the graph and the footprints and things. So yes, there is some historical significance left.
So it's a yes.
Yes.
Okay. Ben? Ben? I feel like I'm, Stella?
I think he's muted, Ben.
All right, we're going to have
Mr.
to.
Chairman, may I just jump in for a second?
I'm sorry?
May I just jump in for a second with?
Yes, absolutely.
I guess I'm just curious because it seemed like everyone tended to agree that the original section's been modified to such an extent it's no longer significant, but now I'm hearing folks still think there's a semblance of a significant structure there from a historical perspective.
What you heard, I think Mr. Lear summarized it from his perspective, that the historical significant element of the house is still there. Is that, Bob, can you expand on that?
Yeah, no, that's really it. Looking at the picture and having looked at the architect's explanation of the shape that was there before, seems to me the part on the left is pretty much the same. The shape of the porch is still there, unless I'm missing something. And something could be done other than tearing it down and putting in an entirely different structure. So I think it's worth thinking about, especially if you add in your information about they're looking for more size and setback relief, and the law recently passed allows for it.
That's right.
Okay, well, now if we do determine, which looks like we're going to say the house is historically significant, and then there's a question of, is this worthy of a full 18-month delay or just a, less than an 18-month delay? And,
Frank, I would say 6 months is a reasonable option.
okay. All right. I think we have a consensus, and I'm going to proceed with that unless somebody else wants to.
No, 6 months.
I'm going to let the,
Sure. Sorry, just, Mr.
If I could just talk for a second. I've been in Chatham my whole life. I don't see how you could see this has any historic significance at all. It's really kind of upsetting to me, to be honest with you. The house that we're going to replace it with is going to be absolutely beautiful. I mean, if it's more that you're pushing towards us building a cape rather than a Dutch colonial, then, maybe we have that conversation, but the ceilings in there is 7'4". There's no ductwork in the house yet. It has vinyl siding. Every side of the house that's facing either Mosshold or Barcliff is, you can't see any of the structure that was originally there. They took the farmer's porch, ripped it out, and put in this ridiculous front porch. You have to walk through the house, and you have to be an experienced person that knows how to renovate and make these things attractive for a future buyer. And not only that, what about the codes? I'm going to do way more than 50% of the value, so I'm going to be pushed into where I have to meet all the new codes. So that means insulation, that means air leakage, that means new mechanical system. I don't have any room to put that in.
Well, that's a
I have
function of
7'4", I know, but I just don't understand with a 6 month delay, all you're really doing is,
well, I guess if we do that, we'd like you to reconsider what you're thinking about with the house and see if you could do something to save the historic element. And, the comment about code, it's not everything. You don't have to make every element of the house meet the code. It's just the new parts of the house that you have to meet coded. You don't have to go back to the old parts and make them in code.
I would. I wouldn't. It wouldn't be safe. It wouldn't be.
Yeah.
You couldn't live in it.
Well, that's the value of an old home, to some people. Well, look,
I guess it just seems.
I hear what you're saying, but there seems to be a consensus on the commission that there's a sufficient element of the old 125-year-old house that we'd like to see to consider to save, and maybe reconsider the design. That's all. That's
just-
all we can do.
No,
We don't
it's just
say-
hard
we
to
don't say-
envision.
Sorry, we don't say no, we just say we're gonna delay it, or if we vote that way, and ask you to reconsider it. At the end of that time, then you can do what you'd like.
I think what we're struggling with, if it was just the original section, totally understand you could add to that. But where it is now, you'd have to take away all the new additions, then add on new additions to that. So then essentially, you're just gonna be blocking the historic portion anyway, if you do an add-on to the building.
Well, it depends on how you approach the design.
But you saw the setbacks, we don't have very much room to go, anywhere else really to go, so.
I understand.
It's a challenge, it doesn't really seem realistic in terms of trying to maintain what's
Yeah,
historic.
you're just kind of shocking me, and I've done a lot of historical work. I just did the last big historical project in downtown Hingham, and, you know, that whole commission, which is a very strict commission that's been around, as you know, for years and years, they would look at that house and there would be nothing of historical significance. It's just really surprising, to be honest with you.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
All right. We seem to have a consensus that the house does have sufficient elements in it to make it historically significant, and ask the applicant to think about it, which is the purpose of a demolition delay. We say it's historically significant, and then we impose a certain demolition delay. I don't think we're looking at 18 months here, maybe 6 months, as Bob recommended. Do I have that one? In terms of one?
Yes, so you do this first, and then this would be the 6 months.
6 months, okay. All right, we're gonna rubber meet the road. We heard members of the public.
We can always come back.
Robert didn't make it, huh? Okay. I'm going to move, and then we can take it from there. I move that the Chatham Historical Commission Chatham Historical Commission finds the building structure located at
184.
184 Barcliff is historically significant in whole and part, and that 75 years or more. Thank you very much. Blah, 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 blah. Commission finds that it possesses architectural value or significance of the period of time, style, method of construction associated with the builder, either by itself in conjunction with groups of other buildings or structures in the area. Okay, do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Stephanie. Any other discussion? Okay. Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Ben, are you with us? Nope. And the chair votes yes. Okay.
Yep, there he is.
Oh,
I'm unmuted. Yes.
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 He votes yes.
Yeah, Ben, we're gonna have to get you a better computer. Or get one of your grandchildren to sit with you. Okay. The Chatham Historical Commission finds that the proposed work to be done on, the proposed work to be done on the application dated February 22nd, 2023, will materially diminish the historical significance of the building structure, and therefore, a commission impose a demolition delay in the amount of 6 months. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Steph. Janet? Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have a second. Okay, we need a motion. Any other discussion? Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Gotcha.
That's a yes.
Stephanie, yes, that was just Stephanie, yes. Janet, yes?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay, so, thank you very much. I appreciate your comments and your understanding, but appreciate ours. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have a couple of quick things to run through on this application. Not application, excuse me, old business, and it's actually good news. If you can see my listing in the agenda, that the update of the townwide archaeological studies and the subsequent Form Ds and the contract is in process, so we finally are going to be able to update the townwide archaeological survey, which to me is good news. It's one of the last things I want to do before I leave you guys. Whoops, who did I say? Item 2, the William and Ann Nickerson home site, which we think potentially is eligible as a National Register site with the Nickerson Family Association and the Conservation Foundation owns the property. That application or request for eligibility can be initiated after the archaeological survey is completed, and that's the reason I wanted to do that. So the third thing here, which is good, is the archaeological survey of the Chatham cemeteries, the so-called Form Es. I'm in the process of revising the scope of work and getting revised estimates. Craig Cartier, the previous archaeologist, is no longer available for us, so we have another one who's interested. Ryan Christenberry, who was here before the meeting, has basically taken up these tasks and is basically updated what she calls the planning process, okay? So to be in, basically watch over me on all these things. The update of the survey plan, excuse me, I've got out of date. The update of the 2015 survey plan, that's that survey that Christina uses when a house is there a Form B or not? What did Eric think about the home? But we're gonna update that because it was done in 2015, and we found a lot of homes which are lacking. For instance, 127 Stage Harbor Road, we said, well, there's no Form B, why? You know, so things slip through the crack. You know, it's not perfect. So that is also in the process, and Ryan will be putting that contract on the process. Unfortunately, the Monomoy Theater whole situation's on hold pending a legal action with the ZBA. We have looked at, myself and Christina next to me, are looking at the application, the Historical Commission application process. Now, what I think, Christine and I thought about a couple of quick changes, which I can talk about. One was that on the administrative approval application, you know, we're saying that when somebody submits drawings, it's no less than 11 by 17. You know, sometimes we get an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and you can't read anything. And I think that's the only other thing, which she did add in the application for administrative approval, the information that fines could be up to $300 a day. And I think she's done a great job. So effectively, we have a revised application and also a revised determination that the commission chair will sign if it's approved after the historical commission, votes on the application. For instance, on today's agenda, we have none. There were none applications for administrative review. You want me to keep this?
No, that's fine,
That's
thank
great.
you.
Okay, moving right along. The other thing which Christina has done, we're keeping her busy, is I think at the last meeting, if you recall, Christina basically convinced me that using a single application for both 158 and the National Register is the right way to go, but which she has done and will continue to do, she's added some specific elements to make it easy and more understandable by the applicants when they actually submit an application, so there's less confusion. And the other element that's missing from this whole story is the issue of greater than 25%, that, we still have, if you recall, we get some applicants who kind of argue the fact, 25%, less than 25%. So what I've asked Brian with Christina to really take a close look at that and come up with a simplistic definition, so we don't have to keep
Debating.
arguing with people. Did I get it all?
Yeah.
Oh, great. It's a lot, I know. Last but not least, the so-called demolition delay or addressing the issue of neglect. or demolition by benign neglect, as we used to call it. In additional conversations with myself and Ryan and Katie, I think we determined, we're not gonna be able to start a new bylaw from zero. But if we find a way to make a change to the chapter 158 bylaw, like we've done in the past, I wouldn't say sneak things in, but if we make a change to our bylaw and say, we're interested in demolition delay, not because we want to see how much you cut your grass, but if it's an historic house. Okay, so she can be very specific. So she's taking that on. She's got a lot to do. It's not her highest priority, but at least we know we're going to address that. Okay? I've spoken enough.
Frank?
Yes,
Can I
ma'am.
ask, can't we address it from like a health issue? I mean, where it's not even,
Well, we want to stay away from that.
oh,
Because if we get into the health issue and stuff like that,
Oh.
now you're dealing without, not our purview.
Oh.
Historic,
I see,
okay?
okay.
In other words, it's
I
up to
see.
the Board of Health, or, Bob Dunkerson and his, they should address that.
Yeah.
If we try to address that, we're gonna be way out of our league.
I see.
So a good idea she's had is let's address it strictly from an historic preservation. If you have an historic home, a house that's on the National Register or in a National Register district, you have a certain obligation to maintain a certain minimum maintenance. So we'll see what she comes up with. Obviously, we're not doing it alone. She's looking at other towns to see what they've done. Our only example so far is Orleans, which has done it, but they did it only for houses listed on the National Register.
And they also didn't have much of a bite.
Yeah, they didn't get much of a bite on it. Thank you very much. And I appreciate the work that Stephanie has done in the past on this. Okay, just a quick item. 127 is still awaiting a revised application to the ZBA. There is no correspondence, and the chair is going to be quiet. The only thing I would remind the members, here and not here, is there are 4 people who need to get re-interviewed by the select board once they start. I guess they usually do that in June. So Janet, every year you have to be re-interviewed, and Sandy, say again?
For the same position?
For the same position, or if the position changes. In other words, if for instance,
If there's an opening?
if Jane decides she's had it and wants to move on, there's that. So, I'm merely pointing it out. Don has indicated he wants to stay, but, if somebody steps up, he's happy to, to resign. He's been on a lot of years. So I'm just reminding you people, it's just something to be thinking about. I am now going to keep quiet. Okay. Any other business? Bob, you have anything else you want to add?
I do not. Thanks, Frank.
Okay. That's it, unless somebody has something else.
I'd like to
Entertain a
make-
motion to,
I'd like to make a motion that we finish this meeting as of April 4th, 2023.
thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Got a motion to adjourn. Bob?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much.